The ballroom at the Plaza Hotel glittered with Waterford crystal as Michael Sterling, tech billionaire worth $40 billion, laughed with his Silicon Valley friends. The maid, Anna Petrova, was serving champagne when he, drunk on Dom Pérignon and arrogance, pointed at her shouting, "I bet $1 million this Russian cleaning lady doesn't even know what a waltz is." His friends roared. Anna froze, the tray trembling. "If she can waltz a perfect Viennese, I'll marry her," Michael yelled through the laughter. No one expected Anna to set down the tray, remove her apron, and assume the opening position with surgical precision. The orchestra, sensing drama, began Strauss's Blue Danube. And in 3 minutes and 47 seconds, Anna Petrova didn't just waltz the most perfect Viennese ever seen in that ballroom, but revealed herself to be the former principal dancer of the Mariinsky Ballet, hidden for 3 years in New York. When the music ended, in the tomb-like silence, Anna looked Michael in the eyes. "I accept your proposal, Mr. Sterling. We marry tomorrow." The billionaire went pale. He didn't know Anna had recorded everything, and that this drunken bet would become the most binding contract of his life. The Plaza Hotel's grand ballroom shimmered under the light of 12 crystal chandeliers, each one worth more than most Americans made in a decade. It was Michael Sterling's 40th birthday celebration, and the cream of Manhattan's tech elite had gathered to pay homage to the man who'd revolutionized artificial intelligence and made $40 billion before his 4th decade. Michael Sterling stood 6'3", with the kind of engineered perfection that came from personal trainers, nutritionists, and subtle surgical enhancements. His salt and pepper hair was artfully tousled in that way that suggested he'd just rolled out of bed, but actually took an hour to achieve. Harvard MBA, MIT PhD in computer science, 3 divorces that had cost him $2 billion but barely dented his fortune. Anna Petrova moved through the crowd like a ghost in efficiency, refilling champagne flutes, replacing canapés, invisible in her gray and white uniform that made her indistinguishable from the other 20 servers supplied by elite catering services. 28 years old, blonde hair pulled back in a severe bun that hid its ballet-length gray eyes that she kept perpetually downcast. 3 years earlier, she'd fled Russia after a scandal that destroyed her career. Now she cleaned the floors she once graced in tulle and satin. The evening was proceeding in its predictable decadence when Brad Chen, Michael's Stanford roommate and functional cocaine addict, launched the challenge that would change everything. He pointed at Anna as she served and shouted over the jazz quartet that none of these Eastern European servants even understood real culture, let alone could dance a proper waltz. Michael, with 6 whiskeys in his bloodstream and his ego inflated by sycophantic praise, seized the moment. He climbed onto a marble table, an action that should have alarmed anyone who knew him sober, and shouted his wager. $1 million that the Russian maid couldn't waltz. And if she succeeded, he added through the laughter of friends, he'd marry her. The ballroom erupted in applause and laughter. The wives in Oscar de la Renta giggled behind their champagne flutes. The husbands in Tom Ford placed side bets on how long before the maid ran away, crying. No one noticed the discreet waiter who activated his phone's recording, nor the security camera that perfectly framed the scene. Anna stopped mid-stride in the center of the ballroom, the crystal tray still in her hands. For 3 long seconds, she remained frozen, while 400 eyes fixed on her like spectators at the Colosseum awaiting blood. Then, with movements that betrayed years of discipline, she set the tray on a table, removed her apron folding it with precision, and released her hair. The transformation was instantaneous and shocking. The invisible servant became something else entirely. Her posture changed, shoulders opened, chin lifted. When she assumed the opening position of the Viennese waltz, with arms raised and feet in perfect third position, a shiver ran through the ballroom. Someone recognized that studied grace, that technical perfection not learned in Russian villages. The orchestra conductor, a Juilliard graduate who knew talent when he saw it, raised his baton. The opening notes of Strauss's Blue Danube Waltz filled the air, and Anna exploded into movement. It wasn't just a waltz. It was art in its purest form. Technical perfection melded with raw emotion. Her feet flew across the marble with millimeter precision. Her arms carved arabesques in the air. Her body moved with a fluidity that only years of professional training could provide. But there was more. There was rage in every movement. 3 years of humiliation transformed into kinetic energy. The ballroom was paralyzed. The laughter had died. Glasses suspended mid-air. Michael still stood on the table, his face transitioning from alcohol red to shock white. Several guests had pulled out phones, recording what they were already calling the event of the year. When the music ended, Anna stopped in the final position, not a hair out of place despite the intensity of the performance. The silence was absolute, almost religious. Then, with the same calm with which she'd begun, Anna walked toward Michael, looked him straight in the eyes, and spoke the words that would trigger chaos. The room exploded. Some applauded. Others shouted. Billionaires' wives whispered in scandal. Michael climbed down from the table, stumbling, his lawyer already on the phone. But the damage was done. The wager had been public, recorded, witnessed by 400 members of New York's elite. Michael Sterling's penthouse on Central Park West looked like a fortress under siege the morning after. Journalists camped outside the building. Phones rang incessantly. Lawyers streamed in and out like panicked ants. The video of the waltz had already hit 50 million views. Waltz Bet was trending globally, and memes of Michael on the table were everywhere. In his study paneled in Brazilian rosewood, Michael stared at the dossier his private investigator had compiled in a night of frantic work. Anna Petrova wasn't just a Russian cleaning lady. She was Anna Petrova Volkova, former principal dancer of the Mariinsky Ballet in St. Petersburg, rising star of European ballet until 3 years ago. The photographs showed her in white tulle for Swan Lake, in crimson for Carmen, in black for Ravel's Bolero. Rave reviews from Paris, London, Vienna. The new Baryshnikov in a tutu, the London Times had written, a perfect fusion of Slavic technique and Mediterranean passion, according to Le Monde. Then, in 2021, nothing. The investigator had dug deeper. The scandal had erupted when Anna refused the advances of the theater's director, a powerful oligarch with Kremlin connections. He'd orchestrated her destruction. False accusations of theft, drugs, found in her dressing room, witnesses bought and paid for. Anna had fled to America with false documents procured by an NGO that helped persecuted artists. Michael felt something he hadn't experienced in years: shame. He'd publicly humiliated a woman who'd already lost everything. But the shame was quickly replaced by panic when his lawyer entered with worse news. The wager, according to 3 contract law experts, could be considered binding. There were precedents of joke promises becoming contracts when made publicly and accepted. And the video clearly showed Anna's acceptance. If she insisted, they'd have to go to court, and the scandal would last months. Meanwhile, Anna had taken residence at the St. Regis, paying for the suite with savings no one suspected she had. Not a frightened maid running away, but a woman who knew exactly what she was doing. She'd hired attorney Rebecca Martinez, famous for bringing down half of Wall Street with her harassment lawsuits. Anna's first move was surgical. A press conference in the hotel's ballroom, dressed in a Chanel suit that screamed legal warfare. She spoke in perfect English, with just a trace of accent, telling her story. The art stolen, the career destroyed, 3 years of silent humiliation in the homes of rich New Yorkers who didn't even see her as she cleaned their bathrooms. Then she dropped the bomb. She didn't want to marry Michael for money. She wanted justice. She wanted the world to see how the powerful treat the invisible. And if Michael withdrew his publicly given word, he'd prove that the promises of the rich were worth as much as their morality. Nothing. Social media exploded. Justice for Anna overtook Waltz within hours. Feminists, artists, gig workers all rallied behind her. Michael became the symbol of everything rotten in America's privilege system. But Anna had underestimated Michael Sterling. He hadn't gotten where he was by folding at the first scandal. That night, while Manhattan slept, he crafted a plan that would turn everything around. A week after the fateful evening, Michael Sterling made his move. Instead of denying or apologizing, he doubled down. He called a press conference in the Plaza's ballroom, same location as the crime, and made an announcement that left everyone speechless. He would marry Anna. Not because of the bet, he said, with the smile that had closed billion-dollar deals, but because he was fascinated by her courage. A woman who'd lost everything but hadn't lost her dignity deserved not a sham marriage, but a real opportunity. He proposed a prenuptial agreement, 1-year marriage. She'd receive $20 million to rebuild her career. He'd fund a dance academy for underprivileged girls in the Bronx. It was a trap wrapped in gift paper, and Anna knew it. But it was also an offer she couldn't refuse, in front of public opinion, without seeming greedy. Michael had cornered her with the same precision with which she'd waltzed. The meeting to discuss terms took place in his office on the 85th floor of One World Trade Center, with Manhattan spread below like a conquered kingdom. Anna arrived prepared for war, but found a different Michael. Sober, serious, with a vulnerability in his eyes he'd never shown before. He told her the truth about his rise. Not from nothing, but thanks to his father-in-law, a hedge fund criminal who'd laundered Russian mob money, blackmail, bribes, suspicious deaths. He was as trapped in his empire as she'd been trapped in servitude. Marriage to Anna, paradoxically, was his way out. A year of society scandal to distract attention, while he cleaned up his affairs and cut ties with crime. Anna listened, her performer's instinct telling her it wasn't all acting. There was truth in that confession, even if probably partial. And then there was the concrete offer. $20 million immediately. Use of his name to reopen theater doors. Legal protection against the oligarch who still hunted her. She accepted, but with her conditions. Real marriage before the law. Not a farce. Mutual respect. No public humiliation. And above all, the right to continue dancing. Michael accepted everything, too easily. Anna knew there was more, but the die was cast. The wedding was organized in 2 weeks, fast enough to seem spontaneous, long enough for media to go crazy. The ceremony was held at the Rainbow Room, 500 guests between powerful people forced to attend and high society curiosity seekers.
Enjoying the story? Give it a little like and don't forget to subscribe. Now then, let's carry on.
Anna wore a Vera Wang that transformed her into a fairy tale princess. Michael was impeccable in his mourning coat. During the reception, something unexpected happened. The orchestra began playing a waltz. The guests expected Anna to dance alone, repeating her Plaza triumph. Instead, Michael stood, took her hand, and began to dance with her. He wasn't as perfect as her, but he was prepared. He'd trained in secret for 2 weeks, every night, with a ballroom dance instructor. His movements were stiff but correct, his effort evident but genuine. For the first time, Anna saw beyond the billionaire's mask. She saw a man who, in his way, was trying to do the right thing. The dance ended with genuine applause, the first of the evening. And as Michael spun her for the final turn, he whispered something only she heard, something that would change the nature of their agreement. The first months of marriage were a complex choreography of public appearances and private negotiations. The Central Park West penthouse became a stage where Anna and Michael played the part of the couple in love for the media, while behind the scenes They fought a cold war of mutual respect and distrust. Anna had transformed the east wing of the penthouse into a dance studio, floor-to-ceiling mirrors, oak bars, sprung flooring. Every morning at 6, she was there, her body remembering the iron discipline of her Mariinsky years. Michael watched sometimes from the doorway, fascinated by the transformation of maid to artist, though he'd never admit it. It was during this period that Anna discovered the truth about Michael's first marriage. Jennifer hadn't died in an accident, as the official version claimed. She'd committed suicide, leaving a letter accusing Michael and his father-in-law of using her as a pawn in criminal power games. The letter had been buried, journalists paid or threatened, truth buried under millions of dollars. Anna found the letter hidden in Michael's office safe while looking for documents for the dance academy. She read it 3 times, blood freezing in her veins. The man she'd made a pact with wasn't just an arrogant billionaire. He was complicit in something much darker. That evening, during a gala at the Met where they had to appear as the perfect couple, Anna was distant, mechanical. Michael noticed immediately. He'd learned to read her moods through the way she moved, legacy of months spent watching her dance. In the limo returning home, he asked what she'd discovered. Anna didn't lie. She confronted him with Jennifer's letter. She expected denials, anger, maybe violence. Instead, Michael seemed to age 10 years in 10 seconds. He told her the truth. Jennifer had been forced to marry him by her father, a hedge fund criminal. When she discovered she was just trading goods, she took her life. Michael had lived with that weight for 15 years. That's why he'd accepted marriage to Anna. Not to clean his image, but to finally have a marriage that, however strange, was based on honest agreement between 2 consenting people. No coercion, no blackmail, just a contract between adults. Anna saw truth in his eyes, that same desperation she'd seen in the mirror for 3 years. 2 broken people pretending to be whole. That night, for the first time, they slept in the same bed, not as lovers, but as 2 survivors keeping each other warm in the cold. Things began to change. Michael started genuinely dismantling his company's criminal ties. He testified in trials that put him in danger. Anna began performing again, first in small theaters, then in increasingly prestigious venues. The press called them Couple of the Year, unaware of the mutual protection pact they'd struck. But the past doesn't forgive easily. The Russian oligarch who'd destroyed Anna had found her trail, and Michael's criminal associates didn't appreciate his betrayal. Threats began arriving, first veiled, then increasingly explicit. Lincoln Center was sold out for the first time in years. Anna Petrova Sterling, as she now called herself, would dance the lead in a new production of Giselle. It was her triumphant return 3 years after the fall. Michael was in the front row, genuinely proud, a feeling he hadn't experienced since closing his first $1 million deal. But as Anna prepared in her dressing room, she received a visit that would shatter everything. Dmitry Volkov, the oligarch who'd ruined her, had managed to get backstage. He hadn't come to threaten her physically. He'd come with proof that Michael had orchestrated everything. The Plaza evening, the bet, even the investigator who'd discovered her past. All an elaborate plan to marry a woman with a destroyed past, easy to control, perfect to clean his image. The evidence seemed genuine. Emails, recordings, documents. Anna felt the world collapse for the second time. She'd been used again, even more cruelly. The oligarch offered her a way out, testify against Michael in upcoming trials in exchange for the chance to return to St. Petersburg, career restored. Anna went on stage that night with a broken heart and a mind in turmoil. But when the lights came on and the music began, something magical happened. She danced like she'd never danced, every movement loaded with all the pain, anger, passion of the last 3 years. The audience was hypnotized, some crying openly. At the end, a 15-minute standing ovation. Michael was waiting in her dressing room with white roses, genuinely moved. That's when Anna confronted him with the oligarch's evidence. She expected him to deny, to get angry. Instead, Michael examined the documents and laughed bitterly. They were fake, artfully created. Yes, he'd known who Anna was before the bet, had recognized her from a photo seen years earlier. But the bet had been real, spontaneous, stupid. The marriage had been an improvised solution, not a plan. He showed her his proof. The oligarch's real plan was to use Anna to get to him, Michael, who was testifying against connections between the Italian and Russian mobs. Anna didn't know what to believe anymore. Truth had become too complex a choreography, with too many dancers on stage. That's when Michael did something unexpected. He gave her divorce papers already signed on his part and keys to a Swiss account, with the 20 million promised. She was free to leave, to believe whoever she wanted, to start over wherever she preferred. He was surprised when Anna tore up the documents. Not for love, she said, but because she'd learned something in those months. In dance, as in life, when you no longer know which steps are real, you keep dancing until the music ends. And their music wasn't over yet. 6 months later, the trial against the criminal network connecting Russian oligarchs with American hedge funds was at its peak. Michael had testified for weeks, protected by an army of bodyguards. Anna continued dancing, though every performance could be her last. They lived in a bubble of constant danger that, paradoxically, had brought them closer than any declaration of love. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Brad Chen, Michael's cocaine-addicted friend, who'd triggered everything with his joke about the Russian maid, showed up at the penthouse one night. He was sober for the first time in years, terrified. He had recordings, videos, evidence of everything. He'd been the mole passing information to both the oligarch and the criminals. But now he wanted out, and had enough material to convict everyone. With that evidence, the trial concluded in a month. Heavy sentences for everyone involved, including the oligarch extradited from Russia. Michael and Anna were finally free, but the price had been high. The Sterling Empire was reduced to a quarter, both their reputations marked forever. But they were alive, and for the first time in years, truly free. Their first wedding anniversary coincided with the charity gala for the dance academy they'd opened in the South Bronx. 300 girls from disadvantaged families learning not just to dance, but to believe they could be more than what fate seemed to have decided for them. During the gala, the orchestra began playing that same Blue Danube waltz that had started everything. The audience expected Anna to dance, but she shook her head. Instead, she took the microphone. She told the real story. Not the newspaper's version, not the trial's version, but the truth. Two people broken by power and life who'd found each other in the most absurd way possible. A marriage born from a drunken bet that had become real precisely because it wasn't supposed to be. Love, she said, doesn't always arrive like in fairy tales. Sometimes it arrives as a waltz danced in anger, and ends as a waltz danced by choice. Then she extended her hand to Michael. This time he hesitated. He who'd conquered markets and destroyed enemies. Anna insisted, and finally he stood. They didn't dance the Viennese waltz. They danced a slow waltz, imperfect, with Michael stepping on feet and Anna laughing. But it was real, finally real. The audience applauded, moved by that imperfection more than any perfect performance. The girls from the academy watched enchanted, seeing that even real princesses stumble, and real princes know how to apologize when they step on feet. A year later, Anna gave birth to a daughter. They named her Jennifer, honoring Michael's first wife, a way to make peace with ghosts. The child had Anna's gray eyes and Michael's stubbornness. She grew between ballet bars and boardrooms, learning that strength can come from grace, and that real power lies in knowing when to bow. The oligarch died in prison, apparent suicide. The criminals got life sentences. Brad Chen managed a recovery center funded by Michael, and the Plaza Hotel placed a plaque in the ballroom where it all began. Here, Anna Petrova danced the waltz that changed a life. Actually, two. Michael never conquered another market with his former ferocity. Anna never danced with the technical perfection of her best years, but together they created something new, an honest imperfection worth more than all the world's perfect performances. Because in the end, as Anna said in an interview that went viral, life isn't choreography you can rehearse to perfection. It's an improvised waltz where the important thing isn't never making mistakes, but continuing to dance even when you step on feet. And if you're lucky, you find someone who dances with you despite your errors. Their story became legend in Manhattan society, not as the perfect fairy tale, but as proof that even from the stupidest bets, something real can be born. And that sometimes, just sometimes, a Russian cleaning lady can teach an American billionaire that true wealth isn't counted in dollars, but in shared dance steps. Hit. Like if you believe love can bloom in the most unlikely ways. Comment with the moment that touched your heart. Share to celebrate those who have the courage to dance their truth. Subscribe for more stories of redemption and second chances. Sometimes, the best love stories begin with a stupid bet. Sometimes perfection lies in accepting imperfections. And sometimes, a waltz can be worth more than an empire.